Hello and welcome to Our Ventura TV. My name is MB Hanrahan, and today our guest is my friend, and who also happens to be the co-founder and board vice president of an amazing nonprofit organization called the Sacred Indigenous Preservation, also known as SIP. So we may refer to it as SIP, but Anna, please tell us the mission of SIP, of the Sacred Indigenous Preservation Organization, and also how long you've been doing it.
All right. First of all, thank you, MB, for giving this time for us to talk about SIP and Sacred Indigenous Preservation. The mission of SIP is to conduct, support, protect sacred Indigenous ceremonies, spiritual ceremonies, very Indigenous-centered, something that we can pass on to future generations. In fact, this work of SIP very more commonly has been called the hummingbird community, but we wanted it to be an umbrella that could include more, because the future might bring a lot more, and we're really thinking in terms of 7 generations. And we set up this nonprofit. Actually, the pandemic gave us an opportunity to, because we were really about the practice of what we were doing and not the paperwork, but we were concerned that what happens when we pass on, even though this has gone on in our community for over 30 years, we need to think about leadership, how to support leadership, how to support the community, how to figure out even the essence of who we are as a community. And so we've had that opportunity to form a 501c3 nonprofit during this process and form a board, which was so easy because we have such amazing people already in our community that there's so many more that I'd love to see getting involved with that level.
Hold on one second, because I just want to make things really clear on a couple levels. One thing is that we here in Ventura County are on the land of the Chumash, or where the village where the Chumash lived. And we want to acknowledge that. And just that alone is something that people can learn to do through interfacing with preservationists such as yourself, and your community. And then secondly, you mentioned the hummingbird community, which I've been fortunate enough to know members and do a little bit of interfacing. And so you're talking about people that come from all around, but the ceremonies that you're talking about have been primarily sort of happening in Ventura County, maybe Santa Barbara County, and for many years? Because I know there's going to be people that, one, are barely aware of an Indigenous presence, and then what the heck are they doing? I mean, like you're saying, ceremonies, this and that. Maybe you can paint a picture just to kind of bring our audience into the circle, so to speak.
Right. Well, thank you for acknowledging the first people of this land here, of these unsurrendered lands of the Chumash. And just to add to that, when we do set up for ceremony, which very often is sweat lodge, or it could be talking circles, or there's other ceremonies that we do in gathering of people, we always do start with the blessing of the Chumash people before we construct. Always respect and remember the lands of the ancestors and the descendants that still live here today. So thank you for that. We do primarily serve within Ventura County at various places, and that's been part of our challenge. It's really been a matter of landowners like avocado grove farmers that have opened up their land and said, come on in and you can conduct your ceremonies here. But of course, as land sale or different things happen, we move from place to place. So it's always been within Ventura County, but the people that come represent many areas. Okay. A lot of people come from Los Angeles, of course, a lot of people from Ventura, Santa Barbara, and there's even been people that travel and spend the night in order to participate in the community. And like I said, it's been for over 30 years. It was started by Moses Mora back in the 90s. Wow. And continues now.
So will SIP be doing outreach to, I don't know, enlighten communities, or is it something that you just kind of have people come to you and now, when we'll mention it, come to your website, find out how they can participate and such? I mean, what kind of outreach are you thinking of, if any?
We really hadn't, because we've been so organic. We've really been a gathering of people. And wonderful people. It's a wonderful community. It's a community of people that really are wanting to walk their life in a good way. Some people come to around our circles because of their recovery, or they want to be in service to others, or they just want to have a community. We've been able to even continue during this pandemic via virtual, like we're doing right now, continuing our women's group. So that's taught me so much about the essence of who we are, even when we can't physically get together, just that the importance of coming together around prayer and our spirituality and what I call our fireplace. So we are Indigenous-centered, but it doesn't mean we're Indigenous exclusive.
Okay.
But the difference is we're Indigenous-centered. So anybody coming, sometimes that can be a challenge because unknowingly we're Eurocentric in so many of our practices and ways. And for people that haven't had another experience, but yet are craving being part of a fireplace, a circle, it's an opportunity for them to join in and an opportunity to remind them they have that inside them because we all had our fireplaces at one time and became disconnected. Cool. But I think just to be really clear, we try to, the importance of maintaining these indigenous ways are so important because the intention had been for hundreds of years to destroy them.
Got it.
The fact that we have anything, and now it's very intertribal because of relocation, mainly the relocation. A lot of people coming into the area, and I think that's why we attract a lot of people from LA too. They just need that grounding, and we provide that. We're able to do that.
Wow. Let's see. So I was going to ask you why Sacred Indigenous Preservation is crucial. You know, it's obvious that it's crucial. Well, maybe it's not so obvious, but I think it's obvious. It's crucial for people if that is their culture, because they're being so relatively little in a society as such that brings this forth. Like, I wasn't learning how to bend willows to make a sweat lodge ever in school or anything until I was able to see it happen, you know, as being invited into a circle. But how do you feel that this is crucial, not only for the peoples that maybe come from an indigenous place and society at large? And I know you said a few other things, but if there's anything else you wanted to add to that, because unfortunately, I think sometimes people think, oh yeah, that's great. Preserve the culture for the people whose culture that is, but that's not my culture. So why should I care? Like, how do you answer that?
Well, I think the best way to answer that would be if we had an opportunity to hear from people that come, they gather to talk about what is their reason for coming. That I think, rather than me put the words, because I can say what I hear from people, and like I say, I tend to sense a longingness to be close to their fireplace, but also a desire not to be centered just on their own culture, and to get a different perspective that it's really, I mean, you talked about the bending of the willows and things like that, which are really good. Like, we have a drum group, we learn song, but there's something more fundamental. It's more of a way of life. We call it the red road. And some people find their sense of belonging when they're on the red road, even if that was not their way, because like I said, it's inside them to have that, to have a way.
Okay.
And I think we're a little disconnected in our very individualistic way of thinking in society. And people create community, and all generations, in terms of older people, younger people. And we really are thinking about those 7 generations ahead and how we're going to pass things on. I'd like to think in 50 years, this still was happening. I think it will. It's been over 30 just
wow
in this area. And that even has a legacy and information about that, about how that even came to be, how it came to Ventura County.
What is your situation with land right now, as far as having a home?
Well, that is our overarching goal. Because right now, like I said, it's whoever is saying, oh, go ahead and come. And I'm not being real specific about ceremonies because it's very spiritual and it's very in-depth to try to get into in this way. But they will invite us to come, for example, to construct a sweat lodge right there. But it's not something that when I pass on, Moses passes on, some of us that have been doing this for a while pass on what's going to happen if it's just like that. But if we have a land base and we have a foundation, that's something people can go to and maintain it, and it's consistent.
So Anna, finally, how can people support the Sacred Indigenous Preservation? How can they get in touch with you nice and slow so that people really get it?
Well, along with our nonprofit incorporated that we just did, we also got a new website. We're getting really caught up on things here. And our website is sip-movement.org. That's SIP movement, MOVEMENT.org.
Okay.
And there is where we're going to start putting information as we learn it, because right now, of course, we don't even know when we'll be able to gather in person. We're being very cautious and careful with our community. So we have Zoom calls happening with men and women, trying to support communities best we can. We are having some work days on some of these lands that we're able to do our gatherings at, and we're social distancing as we do work outdoors, but that's where we're at right now. But on the website, as things come up, or just to know who is the board and who's involved, or if you want to contact us, there's a page where you can reach out and contact us.
Well, I want to thank you very much for taking your time, and the best of all, I don't even want to say best of luck, but just the best of energy to Sacred Indigenous Preservation, SIP. And I want to thank you for joining us today at Our Ventura TV. I'm MB Hanrahan, and we'll see you next time.